Hello, Barnes Ferry. I'm here with the Rabbi Slosberg.
Hello, Barnes Ferry. I am Rabbi Bob Slosberg, Aaron's rabbi in Louisiville, Kentucky, and I've been a rabbi at his synagogue for 30 years.
So, anyway, I'm going to ask Rabbi Slosberg some questions. I think it'll be great for you guys at Barnes Ferry to get a taste of my culture from the rabbi. So, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. It's great to see you and have you back in Louisville.
It's nice seeing you again, too. All right, so Barnes Ferry, I've gotten a lot of questions about, they're curious about a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
One thing they're very curious about is the kippah.
Right, the kippah is a sign of respect. It's not covering up a bald spot, although eventually it will. And this is more of a sort of an Israeli style. And there's a long-standing custom in Jewish tradition that we cover our heads as a sign of respect before God. Perhaps going back to the period in the ancient world where people believed that God was up above, and therefore it was disrespectful to have one's hair bare in front of God. But it's had an impact on other religions as well. If you look at the Catholic Pope, cardinals, bishops, and as well Muslim leaders, they as well cover their heads. So it started out probably a couple thousand years ago as simply a sign of respect, and it's continued to this day, even though society is somewhat changed in that we typically will take our hat off when we meet someone or go into a restaurant, but this is somewhat different. This is purely a religious symbol. I think in the modern world, it's almost become a way of identity and pride, perhaps, especially the kippah, the type of kippah that I'm wearing, an identification with the modern state of Israel.
So, you said that your kippah is Israeli style.
Right.
Are there, different art styles of kippahs, like custom kippahs or logo kippahs, or?
Sure, like every civilization creates their own unique artifacts. And so people, let's say Jews who live in certain parts of the Middle East, or Jews who live in Eastern Europe, or Jews in China, or Jews in India will have different sorts of kippot. Jews from Yemen have very, very colorful kippot, these sort of hand-woven kippah like I have, which is called a kippah suruga, is more typically found with by Israelis, those who are religious but let's say not ultra orthodox.
Okay, so if I wanted to get a Dodger logo on a kippah, would I be able to do that?
Yeah, people do that. I mean, I've got a kippah with the Louisville Cardinal on it, and there's even if you walk down the streets of Israel, you can go into stores where you can find a kippah with virtually any logo, sports team, movie theme, hero or statement, or you can find a whole lot of stuff on it, which is fun.
So, could you explain the concept of kashrut?
The concept of kashrut means fit, kasher, and it is the notion that in part of Jewish tradition is about seeking holiness, and one of the most basic ways and things that we do is eat, and so kashrut tries to make eating a holy act. Well, a lot of Judaism is making holiness out of things that are ordinary, and so we try and make ordinary extraordinary. And so going back to the Bible, in Genesis, in the Garden of Eden, man is a vegetarian, and then after the flood story, there is sort of a compromise that God seems to make with man and says, okay, I kind of get that you crave animals, but if you're going to crave animals, there has to be certain restrictions. You can't just eat the blood of an animal, which is symbolic of its life. And then as throughout the rest of the 5 books of Moses, there are some other laws that are added as to which animals can and can't be eaten. The notion of not mixing a kid in its mother's milk, which becomes the basis in Jewish tradition for separating milk and meat, not eating them together. And then, when you look at the animals that are not allowed to be eaten, which are animals that do not have split hooves and chew their cud. An animal to be kosher has to have split hooves and chew their cud. Those animals that have those two qualifications tend to be grazing animals, peace-loving animals that do not attack other animals.
Okay, so what did you eat then?
What did Jews eat? Well, vegetables, fruit. I mean, only probably 20% of Jews throughout the world keep kosher. I find it a part of my identity, and so I eat. I'm a pescatarian. I eat kosher fish and vegetables, and I'm a vegetarian except I eat fish. But I eat kosher fish, and that's fish that has fins and scales. And so I eat salmon, I eat halibut, I eat whitefish, I eat tuna fish, and I eat lots of vegetables and lots of fruit. And in keeping with my desires to be as healthy as possible, I try and eat as little processed food as possible. But I mean, as by looking at me, your classmates will see that I do not go hungry.
So everyone's asking me about the Jew beard.
The what?
The classic Hasi beard, the one with like the thick.
Yeah, there are some ultra Orthodox Jews who interpret a line in the Torah about not cutting the sides of your head, which apparently was a custom of pagans in the ancient world. They interpret that to mean you shouldn't shave, and but there's a vast difference between ultra-Orthodoxy, which is really kind of a literalist approach to the 5 books of Moses, and non-organic. It doesn't believe that religion develops and changes as I do as a conservative Jew. And and many of them actually dress in ways from the countries that their little enclaves came from. So most of the names of Hasidic or ultra-Orthodox groups are names of cities or villages, and so they dress like Polish noblemen used to dress, with long coats, and which really gets nasty during the summer months, and with long beards and with hats. And the hats are actually what distinguishes what city or village they are from. Each one had a different hat style or fur on the hat.
So did you ever try for the Jew beard?
No.
Okay.
No, the only time I grew a beard was I grew a beard 1 year when my father died. It's customary to not shave, and so that 1 year, and as a sign of mourning, I grew a beard, and then I shaved it after the year of mourning.
Could you recite the Jewish morning prayer?
You mean the Morris Kaddish?
Yeah, you don't have to if you don't want to.
No, I don't mind. The Morris Kaddish is actually in Aramaic, and it's the basis from which the Christian prayer of Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, and it's Aramaic, which is a language similar to Hebrew, and it goes like this: Yitgadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah. And by the way, there's no mention of death in the prayer, only praising God. V'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayichonu yomechonu v'chayidachol be'Yisrael v'agalav zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam lo me'omaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei d'kudesh abrichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata tamiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. And you can translate that for them in English. Work on your Aramaic, Aharon.
Thanks, Rabbi.
You're welcome.
So here's one I get a lot. Is it true that Jewish moms are always feeding their kids?
Jewish moms always feeding their kids? No, I mean, No, I'm no more than or less than anyone else. I mean, it's there is this old canard suggesting that Jewish mothers are doting and stifling and you see that more in the movies and TV and stuff, or at least not so much anymore, but in the 80s and 90s. But no, there's no, that's sort of an old anti-Semitic image of putting down Jewish mothers. No, I don't. The mothers that I know don't feed any more or any less. And in fact, the ones who like to feed people the most are grandparents of all different religions. They never think you eat enough, and they always think you weigh too little. So but that's not just Judaism.
So, in general, what's the modern Jewish opinion on Israel?
Well, it's not a question of modern opinion. Israel is the Jewish homeland, spiritual homeland. And it's a young homeland established in 1948. Our roots go back, if you follow the Bible, close to, really close to over 3,000 years ago. And, it's become a place with a lot of controversy in that, we're learning how to live with our neighbors. I mean, a great exercise would be to take out a proportional map of the Middle East and you'll see that Israel is just really a speck. It's like a little speck on the map compared to the other nations. And one of the challenges for Israel is to learn how to live with the Palestinians, many of whom, but not all of whom, do not recognize the right of Israel as a Jewish homeland. So there are good people who are Palestinians. There are bad people who are Palestinians, just like there are Jews who are good and there are Jews who are bad. And trying to come up with people who want to make peace has really been difficult. On 3 occasions, Israel has offered exactly what the Palestinians insisted on, and it still didn't produce a deal, and which gets to be, it's made Israelis very suspicious of what they really want. Do they really want to destroy Judaism or destroy the Jewish people, destroy the state of Israel? But at least, with Arafat, there was an agreement, and in the end, Dennis Ross, who was one of the U.S. ambassadors to Israel, said to him, look, I got them to give in everything that you wanted. This is to Yasser Arafat, then why won't you agree? He says, if I agree, I'll be killed. So that didn't work out. And then again, we had with Barak, when he was president, same thing. It was going to be exactly what they wanted. There was going to be a small 4% land swap in that there were 4% land that Israel felt they couldn't give up for security reasons, and they were going to give the Palestinians 4% of Israel in order, so it's an equal land swap, and that didn't work out. And then Olmert, the last previous prime minister, exact same thing, and so it doesn't produce a deal. It's kind of like if I say to you, how much do you want to sell the phone for, and you say, I will sell the phone to you for $100. I give you $100. You say, well, you can't have the phone. So it's a problem. Israel doesn't always handle the situation well politically, largely because its government is rather complicated. In order to have a coalition of 61, there's been a lot of strange bedfellows that have been brought together. So it's not easy, but my hope is that we'll live to see resolution of the conflict between the Palestinians and Israelis, and Israel will make peace with its neighbors. Obviously, the Middle Eastern world is changing pretty rapidly. The Arab Spring, which really began in the winter, has caused a great deal of change, and we'll see what happens going forward. I think the next ruler to fall will probably be Assad in Syria, who's another brutal dictator, and that will, like his father, and that will create all sorts of challenges for Israel, because now it will be surrounded by Syria, which has historically been an enemy with a new leader, and then Egypt, which, will Egypt honor the peace agreements that it has with Israel from the Camp David agreements in 1978. So it's exciting times, but it's also scary times. But my suggestion to you and your classmates is to not take your ball off the real danger in the Middle East, which is Iran. And Iran with nuclear weapons is a frightening, frightening possibility, and I don't believe the United States and Israel can let that happen. How they can prevent it is another story, but I can't imagine, them letting this go forward. What else?
So how'd you end up pursuing a rabbinical career?
Oh, I knew when I was like 14 that I wanted to be a rabbi. I mean, I was very much into sports and stuff, and then had a had a life-changing experience when I was at summer camp at Camp Ramah in Canada, and I got very sick. I had bleeding ulcers, and the camp didn't really handle it well. I lost almost 20 pounds and fainted a couple times, and when I went home, I was immediately taken from home to the hospital, and it turned out that I was, initially they thought I had cancer in the stomach. I mean, it was a very tense time. And then it turned out I had bleeding ulcers, which of course back then people didn't know it was a bacterial infection, and so it was pretty difficult. And then they just almost miraculously healed on their own. And while I was sick at camp and really pulled out of activities the last 2 weeks of camp, I made a commitment that if I survived the ordeal and got home and lived, that I would work on behalf of the Jewish people. And so then I went to Columbia and the Jewish Theological Seminary and got 2 BAs, and then an MA, and then on to rabbinical school at the Jewish Theological Seminary for another 5 years. So it pretty much took 9 years to get the education part, and then earned a doctorate of divinity along the way. And then my first and only job interview was in Louisiville, Kentucky, and that's the only job I've ever had. So I've been very, very lucky in my career.
So what's your workday look like?
My workday is, I wake up at 6:30. I go to worship services at 7:15. Services start at 7:15. And then I have appointments during the day and usually visit 1 or 2 hospitals, and then during the week as well, I'll visit nursing homes. And people come to me with problems. When someone dies, that kind of adds a whole new wrinkle. Do a lot of counseling, particularly with ADHD adults, trying to help them, get back on track. And it's always been sort of a special project of mine the last 10 or so years since I figured out that I was ADHD. So I do a lot of work with that. And it's $1 million operation that I oversee a lot of it, and have a staff that works with me and do programs, do teaching. I teach classes, I teach students, I work with kids preparing for their bar and bat mitzvah ceremonies, and people sometimes, I have some national projects I'm working on. I'm working on pluralism in Israel. In fact, I'm going to Israel January 18th for a meeting with government officials and with another 19 or so rabbis to see if we can make some headway on pluralism, to have Israel become a more pluralistic society, which is really the goal of the vast majority of Israelis. But there is a powerful 8% of ultra-Orthodox that seems to step in the way and use their political clout to really disenfranchise other religions.
So how's your workday changed on the Sabbath?
On the Sabbath, well, it's technically not a work day because I don't work on the Sabbath. I lead worship services, so I get up at 8 o'clock and then get the services and lead them from 9:15 to 12, and then the rest of I give a sermon that I've written during the previous week. And usually my workday starts at 7 and I go to bed. I work pretty much till 9:30. Like when I get home, if I don't have if I have a meeting, I'll get home around 8 or 8:30. If I don't, I'll just watch some ESPN or some of the TV shows that we like, um, and then do email correspondence and stuff. I get about 100 or more emails a day, and it's almost impossible to keep up with. I mean, I kind of wish email wasn't as widespread as it is. It's almost impossible to keep up with all my emails. I have right now over 9,000 emails from God knows when. I haven't either weren't important, but I never got a chance to answer, but they weren't from people. They were really just things sent to me. I mean, emails become a real burden. It's made my life a lot more complicated than simple.
So, can you tell Bonner's Ferry about the Jewish Sabbath?
Well, Jewish Sabbath is from Friday night until Saturday night, and it's a time of unplugging, putting aside mechanical stuff and just being together with family, with community. I don't drive on the Sabbath. I observe it in a traditional way. I don't write. I don't drive. We don't cook on the Sabbath. It's really kind of a way to unplug ourselves from all these things that we are plugged into, and usually take a nap Saturday afternoon. I always have Shabbat dinner with my family the night on Friday night, and we have our middle child living with us. He's 26, and so he's always at the Shabbat table, and it's a time to interact and get to be with family, get to know family better.
So, there's some serious questions I need to ask you.
Please. Have I ever said no to your questions?
That's true. I ask you questions all the time.
Correct.
When somebody asks you if you're an American Jew or a Jewish American, how do you respond?
Well, I'm a very proud American, and I'm a Jew. I don't see myself as having one allegiance more than the other. I think it's both parts of who I am, my identity. I'm proud of America. I'm proud of being Jewish. And so probably I would answer American Jew simply because it sounds better, but I think they're equally important parts of where I am, who I am. But the fact happens to be that I live in the United States, and so that does lead me in certain ways as far as loyalties go, as far as country. But I deeply love Israel. I go there at least once a year and feel a strong connection to the state of Israel, even though I may not agree with everything it does.
What, in your opinion, what are the responsibilities that come with faith?
Well, faith, regardless of what that faith is, I believe that religious people, regardless of what the religion is, there's two aspects. There's deed and creed. Let's say deed and faith. And there are things that we believe and should act upon, and then there are things, the mitzvot, in Judaism, deeds, commandments that we are expected to do to make us people, to help us be more connected with God. One of the things that I bemoan the most is that young people 18 to 35 tend to be totally disconnected from religion. I think they're losing something. I think religion provides guidance, it provides a way of life, it provides peace of mind, it provides wisdom, and a lot of what I do is teach wisdom to people. Not my personal wisdom, but the wisdom of Jewish tradition. But that wisdom, wisdom of one sort or another can be found in every religion. I mean, I don't believe that I have cornered the truth on cornered the mark on what is true. I believe that that God's truth is sort of refracted through a prism, and manifests itself in different ways to different people. For me, that truth is best expressed through the religion called Judaism.
So, from your point of view, have the Jews quite forgiven Germany for the Holocaust?
Yeah, I think we've moved beyond it. I mean, I think younger Jews have, I mean, it's hard to be angry at people who don't exist anymore. I mean, when you say Germany, you're talking about, the vast majority of Nazis are gone. And being, will we ever respect or forgive the Nazis? No. I mean, there's certain crimes that people do that can't be forgiven. It can't be undone. But the current day Germans, they're not Nazis. I think they're as much a victim to one way or another by what Nazi Germany did to their country as I think they're victims not as much as we are, but they're certainly victims. And I think that Germany has been extremely supportive of Israel over the years, financially and in other ways, and politically. And so, I don't harbor any ill will towards Germans.
So, on a final note, as a rabbi, what's your vision for the world?
Oh, my vision for the world. You ask simple questions. I wish for peace and people to accept other people, for there to be a singleness of purpose to do good. I mean, religions share a lot in common. And wouldn't it be nice if we all worked together to help make a difference in those who are hungry, those who are poor? I would love to see peace in the world. People not having the hatreds that often unite them and divide them, and it's very sad. I mean, I wish people didn't proselytize. I mean, I wish people were secure enough in their own beliefs to not feel that they had to pull other people into their orbit. And just like as a Jew, I'm very secure. I don't proselytize. I accept other people's right to have their beliefs. And so I don't desire that people be like me. I accept people the way they are. So the idea would be, but my ultimate hope is that people like yourself and your classmates will do your role in making the world a more meaningful, wonderful place that is marked by peace and goodwill and people wanting to help others and improve the lives of those who are disenfranchised in society.
Rabbi Slosberg, thank you for your time.
You are always welcome, anytime.
I really appreciate it.
We can sometime, if you like, I'll even Skype with your class and they can all give me their questions.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, anytime. It's an open offer.
Thanks, man.
Very good. Okay.
All right.
So let me see what I gotta. Where's that form? Okay, here.
Shalom, Bonners Ferry.
Okay, let me sign.